Hello, San Angelo, and welcome to the Live Daily News Show. I'm James Bellini.
And I'm Tessa Koskovich.
In news today, it is a Joe Hyde Special.
As we all know, you guys love to see his face.
Yep, he sits down with County Commissioner candidate Chad Decker, and it's about 45 minutes long.
Buckle up. We'll get into that interview right after this message from Jim Bass and Jana Johnson.
Truck Month is on at Jim Bass Ford. Right now, all new 25 Ford F-250 Super Duties are $9,000 off MSRP. Power, performance, and pricing you won't find anywhere else. Our lots are packed, and these trucks are priced to move fast. And once they're gone, they're gone. Get here now to Jim Bass Ford, Houston Hart and Arden Road, or 24/7 at bassbunch.com.
People just don't want a decision. They want a process they can trust. In county court at law, that means upholding the law and applying the law consistently, explaining the rules clearly, treating everyone with respect, and making sure every voice is heard. A judge sets the tone for the entire courtroom. I have that experience, that temperament and calmness to set the right tone. Justice you can trust. Vote Jana Johnson for judge for Tom Green County Court at Law number 1.
Hello, it's Joe Hyde. Welcome back to the show. I'm the publisher and founder of San Angelo Live, and it's politics season, so we have lots of candidates coming through, and we have 3 important elections for Tom Green County this year. We have the county clerk, and of course we have the big one, which is County Court at Law number 1, but we also have a small little matter in Precinct 2 where we have to select a new commissioner. And if you don't know what a commissioner is, it's kind of like the county commissioner's court is similar to a city council, except it governs the entire county. You have a county judge who's similar to a mayor, who's the administrative head of the commissioner's court. And the commissioner court has 4 commissioners. Of the 4 commissioners, if you can imagine Tom Green County, you put a window pane, 4 panes of a window on it. You have a northwest quadrant, northeast quadrant, southeast quadrant, and southwest quadrant. Precinct 2 generally is the southeast quadrant that covers Wall and Moretta and goes down there to Butler Farms and parts of Bentwood, parts of Southland, that kind of thing.
All of Lake Nasworthy.
Lake Nasworthy area. So the previous commissioner was the late Sammy Farmer, who was a very dear friend of mine. And he passed away last month, and it was a very sad time. And so now we're moving on to the next generation.
Yes, sir.
And this is Chad Decker. He's sitting right next to me. And Chad has decided to throw his hat in. He wants to be county commissioner. Got one opponent, Todd Smith.
Yes, sir.
So people have a choice. So Chad, tell me in like a minute, where the heck are you from and who are you?
Well, Chad Decker, born and raised in San Angelo. Graduate of Central High School, Angelo State University. I have lived here most of my adult life. Grew up in, I guess, just the average household type family.
Did you have any pets?
Well, of course, yeah, we had. Yeah, not to the extent that we have now. But if you want to call goats pets,
yeah.
So
you're in the goat business.
Yes, sir. But left ASU. I actually worked for Templeton Construction during college.
And Templeton Construction was a commercial construction company here, storied past.
Absolutely.
No longer exists.
Correct. And I really liked the construction industry, and I had a cousin that worked for a company in Houston, and talked to him about going to work for him, and they did high-end custom homes, and he said, I can't hire you don't have enough experience. So I went to Houston and started building for a pretty much an entry-level type custom home, or entry-level home builder.
Like a Perry Homes?
Similar to that. Right. And worked for them for about 6 months. He had told me to stay there for a year, and I was very successful in that 6 months, and so he said, I think you're ready, and went to work for them, and worked my way up through a couple of different companies, and got married in the meantime, had a couple of kids, and both of our parents were starting to get older, and we wanted to be closer to family, so we moved back. And
the homing device always comes on in your mid-30s, right?
Well, I always said I've got to get out of San Angelo. I wanted to see something different, and although I greatly enjoyed all my time here, but we just thought it was a great place to raise our kids, you know. So
Schools are better. You have more control.
smaller, and yeah, absolutely. You know, I'll give the example all the time of my kids being out at an event or the rodeo or whatever, and if they're not doing something maybe exactly like they should have been, I get a phone call, and then I'd call my kids and say, "Hey, I got eyes all over town."
So if they were at Rodeo Houston, which is this gigantic, sprawling operation, you may not ever hear from them again.
there's no telling, and that is a huge event. So
A lot of people do move to San Angelo because of the schools, and that's an important thing. Where did you sit on the school bond? I mean, the school bond. I know. Do you live in Wall?
we live at Wall. Yep.
Well, they had a bond too.
They sure did.
So
And
how do you view financing these schools? I know it's outside the purview of county
commissioner,
but I'm curious.
I'll just tell you. So you know, when the bond came up out at Wall, I was for it both times. First time it was voted down, we voted for it. The second time we voted for it as well, knowing that our kids would never see the inside of the elementary school. It was something that was needed. My wife is an educator. I think in her 34th year, she teaches at Central. And I know firsthand from her the day-to-day obstacles that they overcome or have to overcome. And a lot of it has to do with the quality of the classrooms. A lot of it has to do with, you know, having the right tools. You know, I think it's something that was necessary, especially at Wall, and now with her being over at Central, you know, they don't have the most, when you're trying to cram. She was at the freshman campus for a while, but when you're trying to cram,
and the freshman campus was that old building
Edison.
that's on Edison on Oak Street, North
Right.
Oak Street.
And so when you're trying to cram those kids into that school and, you know, sometimes accommodate rooms that weren't necessarily set up for classrooms, and in her case, she teaches a culinary class. And so when you're trying to teach cooking in a classroom that was not set up with stations, it makes it difficult. And so I think it's something that we needed. Of course, we all hate paying the taxes that are involved with it, but, you know, the kids are our future, and if we don't give them proper facilities to give them a good education, I think we're just hurting ourselves down the road.
A lot of people don't realize that these schools are just massively old. I mean, they were old when you and I were going to them.
Oh,
right?
no doubt.
And one of the issues that we have in the county, I think, is we don't have enough growth in commercial and industrial properties to make investments. I mean, I grew up in Katy, Texas, and obviously Katy went from one high school to, I don't know, 10.
I don't know how many they have
whatever
now.
they have
Yeah,
now.
it's crazy.
They have a lot of high schools, but it took a lot of money to build all those high schools. I mean, a high school is probably, what, a $200 million project? You're a construction guy.
I'm sure it's probably in that vicinity, if not more. And, you know, speaking of Katy, when we were there, Interstate 10 was 4, maybe 6 lanes. Now it's like 12 or,
32.
yeah, I mean, and plus the, you know, HOV lanes and everything else. So that area just takes a ton of traffic, and with all the growth, they've had to expand.
Yeah, but San Angelo didn't have that growth to kind of cover up, so to speak, the tax increases.
That's correct.
Because you can issue a bond in Frisco or somewhere like that, and you can do a bond without a tax increase.
Right.
You know,
Right.
without a tax rate increase.
Right.
So here you have to. So we have to really count our dollars, I think. And the county has some challenges coming up.
Sure.
One of them is and I talked to your opponent about this, our criminal justice system. Our probably your biggest expense at the county is your 4 district courts and your magistrate court, your 2 courts at law, all your JP courts, and the jail.
And the jail and the sheriff's department.
Yeah.
Correct.
You know, one of the things that I've noticed, you know, I cover a lot over the last 15 years, I've covered a lot of court cases. And
Sure.
So I have a lot of time sitting in that old 1933 courthouse. And I know that they've done some remodeling to it. And you know, I feel like they've just been putting Band-Aids on it. And eventually we're going to have to do something.
Well, that's not just with the courthouse, or, you know, I mean, we've got a fabulous jail facility now. And we both had the opportunity to go tour that, and I will tell you, I was thoroughly impressed with not just the facility, but the cleanliness, how well it was manned, the policy and procedure that they had in place. But that's the newest facility that we have. in the county, and it came with a price tag. But yeah, this
$78 million.
The yeah, and the but if you look at the roads in the county, I think if you compare Tom Green to other surrounding counties, I think our county roads are in pretty good shape. But there's always room for improvement. However, all that stuff takes money, and without having a tax rate increase, that $69 million budget that we have for 2026, we have to effectively spend every dime.
One of the issues that I can see on the horizon, because I follow County Commissioner's Court,
Sure.
is you're going to have. It looks like they're trying to get that jail bonds, the bond for the jail paid down, so they can issue more bonds, because we're going to have to build a criminal justice center. And I've talked to Lane Carter, our county judge, about it, and he agrees. He says we got to do something. And when you talk to district judges, they're concerned. I think the biggest concern is, for me, is a district judge should be elevated, right? It's not the person,
Right.
It's the position.
Right.
And we're not providing them enough protection. Some crazy divorce case, and one side or the other gets really mad at the judge, and they're out there, walking to their parking lot, unprotected.
Correct.
We need to have something there that protects the judges. I guess a more modern court facility.
That would definitely be a plus. Again, we're talking about dollars.
All right. So what if it cost $100 million?
Well, that's something that I'd have to look long and hard at. Nobody wants to pay. I think because of some of the things you said earlier, that we don't have a whole lot of industrial, commercial. We don't see the big business, the industry that, like Frisco was your comparison. They don't see bonds or the result of bonds financially. The people in San Angelo and Tom Green County, they don't see that expense like we would here. So, while it's necessary, I'm going to be hesitant without doing a whole lot of research, because it would require a tax rate increase. There's no doubt, or bond. And
bond effectively is a tax increase.
Right.
You're increasing spending, and you have to have a balanced budget.
Sure. And so, with the fact that we're taxed pretty heavily already as it is, that's one of those deals you're going to have to put a lot of thought into. I'd have to see numbers, figures. With me having a construction background, I definitely want to have a look at what the expenses were on the budget as far as the facility. I'm not a commercial construction expert by any means, but I do have a construction background. So
in 2015, 16, 17, when they were taking care of that jail, one commissioner saved us, and that was Rick Bacon. Rick Bacon kind of took that jail project by the bull by the horns, and he shepherded that thing through. There were a lot of I won't say bad decisions, but they were, I guess, I don't know. There were some bad decisions made on the financing of it. They got a bond before they knew how much it was going to cost, for example. And I think with Bacon's shepherding of that thing, we actually ended up paying about what we would have paid had they done it the traditional way, where you get the cost of the contract, and then you go through the construction process. We kind of did it backwards. We got the money first, because we thought it was going to cost $43 million or something
Right.
like that. And if we got that money, and I think part of the reason they did that, because you get really cheap interest loans back then, like almost 1% interest.
Well, you do, and just the increases that we've seen on the residential side in materials and even labor in the from the time you set up for a bond till the time you actually do the construction. that stuff goes up faster than you can keep up with it.
Yeah, it does. So let's talk about home building.
Okay.
In Houston, where were you building homes?
Mainly, I did some in Katy, did some in Copperfield, even down in Lake City some, which is a whole different animal. Anytime you build in an inland one area, you have to, which inland one is
You got to worry about the
hurricane type prone areas, higher winds. So you've got to completely, more than just engineering a foundation. You've got to engineer the framing. You've got to put in hurricane clips, strap the walls down. It's a whole different type of construction. When I was there back then, the company that I was working for, we could build the same house in, say, the Woodlands that we built in League City, and it was about $45,000 more to meet the windstorm requirements.
Down there on the coast.
Right. But most of my stuff I did was in Montgomery County, the Woodlands, Magnolia, around Lake Conroe.
So you're kind of building for a fast-moving development type building scenario up in Houston, and you come back to San Angelo, and what's the difference?
Well, so I started building on my own there before
Houston?
before move back. Yes,
Okay.
and the difference here is it is a slower pace. You don't have national builders yet, which I think that's coming, like we had there. And that's who I worked for before I went out on my own. But it's I think San Angelo is probably 7 years behind the curve when it comes to some of the features and things like that. We've had some
features in the house,
right, and just kind of things in general,
like fixtures
design or just the interior design stuff like that. So there were some things that I did when we first moved back here, like
you accelerated the adoption.
Well,
of new features.
with stuff that I was used to doing, like we would put so many times. Folks do a fancy backsplash in the kitchen, and then it never failed right where an outlet needed to be that's required by code was right where a design was. So years ago we'd started putting our outlets up underneath the cabinets, so that way you have a nice clean look on your backsplash. You're not messing up your design. In the first house that I did when I moved back, the inspectors called me and said, "Hey, we have a problem. You don't have any outlets in your backsplash." And I said, "No, but they're there. They're under the cabinet." And so once they started looking at it, they said, "Oh, okay. We've never seen that done before."
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was one of the things I started.
That's
doing.
one of the things in smaller markets. What you can do is you can take a big city idea and adopt it. I mean, the greatest example I can tell you is San Angelo of taking a big city idea and adopted it is Jim Bass Ford.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Jim Bass Ford, it looks like a big city. It looks like you're driving down I-35 in Austin.
It does.
And it's a gigantic car dealership.
Well, and they made the big decision to move from Sherwood Way out to Houston Hart.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of our guys have stayed, with the original locations. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's a huge facility, no doubt.
But that's taking a big city idea and planted it in San Angelo, which is, we're not a small city. I mean,
but we're not Dallas or Houston or San Antonio, and nor do I think the people that live here want us to be Dallas or San Antonio.
We don't want the
Houston.
traffic.
Right.
We don't traffic here, right? I think a better example of where San Angelo is going is probably South Lubbock. If you look at South Lubbock
probably
and the
so.
growth down there, I mean, I will even say this: South Lubbock is growing like I remember Katy growing up. I grew up in Katy in the '80s. Katy was the fastest growing corridor in the United States back then. And I see that in South Lubbock. I mean, it's just going crazy.
It
down
is.
there.
It sure is.
And I think a lot of that's going to come here.
It will. I think if and when we ever see the interstates, singular or plural, come through, I think that's when we start to see some more growth, bigger growth, faster growth. But that's one thing that I want to try to do is make sure that we plan ahead for that, because being in on the infrastructure game behind the eight ball is not where you want to be.
Right.
I mean, you got to plan ahead, and of course, I think we all know that if you're not growing, you're dying.
Right.
And but we've got to be responsible with our growth, and make sure that stuff gets zoned accordingly. We've got corridors set aside for traffic and commercial and residential and safe places for kids. I mean, that's one of the things I can say about the Woodlands development. That was so well thought out by George Mitchell with the green spaces and the walkways. I mean,
don't say green spaces now. The HBA is going to get mad at you.
Well, I mean, it was for a master planned community.
They probably figured out how to get the developer to compensate the developer for developing the green space. They had a system rather than saying, "Here, go spend $5 million on this park." Right.
Or a detention pond that you're going to have to maintain for perpetuity.
Right.
So
that is explained to that problem. I mean, I know we're jumping a lot around, but
we are.
These are issues that have come up over time. The HBA came out about a year ago and said we got a problem with these retention ponds that the city is mandating that land developers put in their neighborhoods.
Yeah, and it's essentially forever 30, and don't quote me on this, but it's either 33, 35, 37 lots you've got to put in a detention pond. So when we go in and put in, or a developer goes in, puts in streets, they have now taken dirt that would normally soak in water after rainfall, and it's an impervious surface, so water is not going to soak in. So in order to
That's because of our soil?
well, part of it's the soil, but part of it's, water's not going to soak in asphalt like it would in dirt.
I got you.
So, that water that's now displaced that would normally soak in has to go somewhere. So, it has been our suggestion to do regional detention instead of requiring a developer to put a detention pond in every single neighborhood that they would potentially have to maintain, mow, insure. In case it's full of water and there'd be something bad happen with a kid or whatever, and it also takes away from 5 to 6 potential buildable lots. So if you've got to take that out of your budget, and you're gonna have to raise the price of the other lots, and that's one thing that I've fought for as long as I've been building is housing affordability. And so anything that we can do to keep housing affordable, that's most people's single largest investment. And there was a statistic that was out years ago that said for every $1,000 in, this is the state of Texas, for every $1,000 increase you have in the price of a home, you take like 20-something thousand people out of they're no longer qualified.
We can't get the loan.
Right. So I've always fought for housing affordability. But back to the detention, if it's something that we could do, there's a proposed area at College Hills and Valley View, and they've already kind of started doing some digging back there, and part of the new construction that's going in will drain into that. But they're talking about putting in a multi-use type facility that would serve as a regional detention, and then also have a park with some playground equipment. And I think the original drawing that I saw had like a sport court or basketball court. I'm sure they could set it up for pickleball.
Pickleball is important.
It's huge in San Angelo. So, but and that's something that people always ask for, is more park space, more place for the kids to go play. But the city, just like the county, you got to pay to maintain that, and that's not necessarily always in the budget. So I know.
But the biggest problem that I heard from this was that if you're a land developer and you build these required retention ponds, you have unlimited liability forever, right?
That's correct.
Wasn't that the problem?
That's correct.
When a city or a county has immunity from immunity from lawsuits,
Correct.
right? And so, why would you want to build a development if you're going to have, unlimited, infinite
liability
forever?
That's the whole point. Yeah.
So
and it's not really. I wouldn't think aesthetically it's a good look to go in every 30, 40 lots and have these detention ponds just sitting everywhere. To me, it's regional detention would be ideal.
right. So have the city decide, hey, we're gonna eminent domain this section of land, give you some money for it, and we're gonna make
And a
this
great spot would be like the old Kmart location on the Loop.
okay.
That would be ideal because so much of Southland, that whole part of town, flows right into that area.
Right.
So,
One of the things that's important to understand, just because you're a county commissioner doesn't mean you have no say in what happens inside the city, because the city's in the county.
well, I build in the city. I don't live in the city. I live in the county. But, my concern is not this Tom Green County or, the constituents in Precinct 2. I want to see San Angelo and Tom Green County, the whole area, thrive, do well. I want to see people be able to build homes, afford homes, and, live the American dream. And, what better place to do it than San Angelo, Texas?
Right. All right. So the bill. Let's get back to the county.
Okay.
Data center. Everybody wants to know how you stand on the data center. Now, the data center is a controversial subject here in San Angelo. There's multiple companies or multiple things, but the biggest one is a Skybox facility where the city actually annexed some county land up on the northeast quadrant, not in your precinct, but it's in Precinct 1 of
Correct.
the county. And they're going to build this gigantic 3-building data center, and everyone's
Six buildings.
Is it six
Six
buildings?
buildings.
And everyone's scared that it's going to have NVIDIA GPUs in it and do AI and all that kind of stuff. And no, they said no, it's going to do Apple storage, Apple iCloud storage, whatever it does.
Well, so I don't know that Skybox has actually. So I want to put this out there first. I have not talked to Skybox. I've tried to do as much research as I can. So what I'm saying is not a reflection of the county or the city of San Angelo. It's the research that I've done myself. So, but from what I understood, what I've been told is that Skybox will. Maybe they're building this for this company, their data storage. Maybe it's for Apple. Maybe it's for maybe that's all the pictures we take on our phone. Maybe that's regionally, that's where they go. That's up to them, and I don't know if, how, when they disclose that. But I have been told that it is not AI. It is data center only. That's everything that I've been told.
But why does it matter? It doesn't matter to me. I mean,
well,
whether you're running a GPU or you're running a server, who cares?
I don't know, and I'm not going to speak to that. All I can tell you is with the research that I've done, when it looks at, which I know the two biggest things have been water consumption and electricity consumption, and from everything I've been told, the water consumption is essentially 20 to 25,000 gallons. To fill up each building, so roughly 150,000 gallons. It's a closed-loop system, so the way it's been explained to me, it's like a radiator on your car. So that water filters through, and that's what cools the servers and the whole system. And then essentially the daily use from staff that's there, toilets, sinks, whatever, is essentially the consumption would be what you'd have in like 7 to 10 residential homes. Not the 8 billion gallons to fill them up that I think was initially the number that was thrown out there. I don't think that's accurate. I haven't heard anything, though, as far as specifics on electricity consumption. The things that I have heard is that the power is going to come from that Red Creek substation. I'm told that it has a minimal draw on it right now, that it's mainly a pass-through substation, and that it would provide enough power to the data center. Whether that's going to cause rates to go up, I can't tell you. I don't think anybody can at this time. And I've talked to several folks who are way more knowledgeable on data centers because they worked on them directly than myself, and they haven't been able to give me a firm electricity usage.
Right. I think it depends on what how full it is.
Right. And and there's.
I mean, it's like an apartment, or it's like a commercial office building where you buy. I'm Meta, and I'm gonna buy 32 racks, and I'm gonna put 300 really big servers in there to serve Facebook to people, or whatever you're gonna do. Right. I mean, and I'm gonna pay monthly recurring revenue to whoever owns the data center. I mean, that's basically what it is.
Well, and you know how much we rely now on our phones. Right. I mean, they're almost joined at the hip, and we've all got crap on our phone that we probably don't need to have, or pictures that we've taken years ago that probably needs to be deleted. But the cloud is where they're going. So I think the more we rely on technology, the more we see potential for data centers.
Speaking of technology, the county has a gigantic liability in its expenses of storing all the data for the courts. So you have, for example, you have a court case that involves, they have to download someone's phone. You got data there. They might have pictures. They might have CSI investigation data. And you imagine that over thousands of court cases. That's a lot of storage that you have to keep, that is mandated primarily by the criminal justice system here in Texas. Right. So there's a little bit of discussion. I know when I was running for judge, there's a question: do we continue to build the county's own server farm, or do we start outsourcing it to a cloud?
Well, I think either way you're susceptible to getting hacked. I don't know what would be the best as far as secure storage. Yeah. And I would think that the IT department would be, the go-to folks to asking that, because they're the authority, or the more knowledgeable.
From a consumer of county data products, primarily the court cases and things like that, San Angelo is so far ahead of Lubbock County.
Is that right?
It is.
Okay, well, good. Good to know.
They have a pretty good system. Although They just changed things over, so I'm mad at them again, but that's okay. But it's not a, the Odyssey, the Tyler Technologies thing that we use is actually pretty good. Other things in the county. You talked about infrastructure that we're going to need for the growth, primarily when when the interstate comes, we're going to have more Buc-ee's and all stuff along the highway and things like that. Besides the criminal justice system infrastructure, what other major expenses are you kind of looking at or thinking we're going to have? Capital investments.
Well, who knows? I mean, it could be a myriad of things. And until we see some activity and stuff moving forward, the biggest thing when you look at roads, it's like for my precinct example, has 213 miles of roads, 160-ish are paved, 48 plus or minus are limestone, and then there's actually a little over 4 miles that's just dirt. Those have been maintained pretty well. But one thing that we're going to see with traffic from data centers potentially, or just growth in general, is more traffic on those roads. And so, like I mentioned, the budget is already pretty tight as it is. And from talking to current county commissioners, one of the biggest things that they're trying to do to help the budget, and I would continue to do so, is find grants, find money from other sources to help.
You're starting to sound like Sean Nanny.
Well, and let me tell you, Sean just got a big win. I mean, Tom Green County did with that money that he's getting. Tom Green County's getting with the help of August Pfluger for that Mineral Wells Bridge. I mean, that's huge inconvenience for folks that get flooded in or flooded out from their homes.
Right.
And so that was $1 million, and definitely needed. And I'm sure the folks that are affected are going to be greatly appreciative of that too. So
they'll be happy when they get the bridge. Until then, they're going to complain.
Yeah, but I think the biggest hurdle has been overcome.
Right.
Getting the funding, and supposedly it's stamped and sealed, and from what I understand, that money is actually going to TxDOT, and they will oversee that construction. But that's a huge win, because I know it's been a big concern.
Right. Well, the Sean Nanny and the Mineral Wells Bridge, that was the issue back in 2022 when he was elected. That was one of the big issues. All 7 candidates for that vying for it were asking for it. But what got it was Nanny he doggedly just kept chewing at it. He never stopped. He said, I'm gonna figure it out. I'll figure something out. And he set low expectations of everybody, saying, I'm not gonna be able to fix it, while he just kept doggedly chewing at it. Is there something out there in Precinct 2 that you've seen that needs that kind of attention from a commissioner?
Well, nothing to that magnitude. But I think that's the mentality and the attitude that you have to be a successful commissioner. Is you have to be able to get in there and want to fight and roll up your sleeves for your constituents. Probably the biggest things that I hear are roads, which I think that's in pretty.
You're always going to hear about roads.
Pretty well handled.
Yeah.
Mowing and ditches. I'm starting to hear with some of the growth out in the Wall area. I'm starting to hear some issues with drainage, which I think that's.
You need some retention ponds out there?
Well, I mean, I think that's.
You think Iron Horse is causing floods?
No, but I think that there's some things that we definitely need to look at, and so when you go in and let's just say a developer comes in and they want to put in a subdivision, there's a policy on the county website that tells you what you have to do to apply for and get a plat for a subdivision. One of the things that's required is a drainage study, and so. Maybe that's something that needs to be amended or updated. I don't know. And until we, I think there's a lot of things that until I get in and get to roll up my sleeves and get dirty, some of the things you're just not going to know till you get in. But I think it's definitely something that's going to need to be looked at because, again, when you're putting all this impervious surface in and losing areas that would normally soak in water, and of course, the July 4th flooding was not something we normally see.
It's a 50-year flood.
And so, you can't look at that, but you do have to look at that as well. So, I mean, we want to make sure that.
I mean, the county just agreed to buy a bunch of land or a bunch of houses up in the north side of 2105 to do flooding mitigation?
Well, they're looking into that. I don't think that's a done deal.
Yeah.
But I think that's something that we have to look at, and I think that's part of effective planning and looking ahead.
Yeah.
Is what do we need to do to fix these things before they happen?
All right. So someone from the anti-data center side is going to want me to ask you this.
Okay.
So there's been rumblings and rumors of other data centers going in. They're going to be going in on county land, not the city. So there's no regulation from a municipal government. It would just be the county.
Right.
Counties don't really have a lot of the tools that a municipal government has to regulate land like that. Give me your thoughts on data center expansion out into the county, and also, while you're at it, the other I guess bogeymen in the room are solar farms and windmills.
Well, okay. Well, I'm going to start with those.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of either. I'm not a big fan of either, but I am a big fan of private property rights. And most of the time where you see these solar farms and wind turbines go in is private property. And I don't think it's the county's or the state's decision to say you can or can't do that. With that being said, a conversation that I had with a gentleman said, okay, so what if they put a data center right behind your property? And what would that do to your property value? And I would be concerned. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Mm-hmm. I think there needs to be some regulation. It's going to need to come from the state, because this is something that everything that I'm hearing says data centers are coming to Texas, and it's definitely something that we need to look at. One of the things I'm hearing about is a data center that's potentially coming in is north of the one that the city's working on. Mm-hmm. And I've heard that, and this is all hearsay, but I've heard that the land has pretty much been secured, and then there's land next to it, and solar farms are fighting over who's going to be able to buy the land and put in solar to supply electricity to the data center. It's kind of out of the county's hands at this point. So until we get something in writing or something that says you can do this or you can't do that, there's really not much that I know of that a county commissioner can do.
Well, so goes agriculture when we put solar farms and windmills and all kinds of crazy stuff on land that should be ranch land.
It should be, but from the farmer's perspective, my father-in-law farmed on the side, and I think the last bale of cotton he sold 10 or 12 years ago, I think he said he got 10 cents a bale more than he did the first bale of cotton he ever sold. So, you have generational farmers and ranchers whose children are no longer farming and ranching, and you've got land that's not being farmed or ranched, or it's being leased out. And a lot of times with farmers, they have to lease land, one, because the cost is prohibitive, two, nobody else is farming it. And in order to be able to make a profit, you've got to, instead of doing 300 acres, now you're 3,000 or 6,000 in order to make a profit. So, and I think that's with any crop, whether it's milo, wheat, cotton. It's just tougher to make a living as a farmer these days. Yeah. When I was a kid, we used to drive out and see family in Fort Stockton all the time, and you used to rarely see mesquites. Mm-hmm. Now that's pretty much all it is. And, what was very good sheep and goat land is now deer leases. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and I don't know if that's a result of, descendants of farmers and ranchers not wanting to follow in the footsteps of their parents or grandparents.
Bad trade policy.
Well, that's got something to do with it, too.
Bad trade. And also the end of the subsidies in 1996. The United States government, USDA used to subsidize the mohair industry.
Mm-hmm. San Angelo used to be the wool and mohair capital of the world.
And that all went away. Mm-hmm. Brian May couldn't save us back.
I know.
Brian May ran the Mohair Council, and he was a lobbyist, still is a lobbyist, but and former ASU president.
Absolutely.
Anyway, the last thing I was going to ask you, in Lubbock, we had 2 county commissioners 2 years ago went rogue, and they said, "Judge, we don't like your budget because you're effectively raising the taxes." And In county and city and school district budgets, you have to set the tax rate every summer for the next fiscal year that starts in October, somewhere between the no new revenue rate, which is effectively no tax increase, and what's called the voter approval rate. So you have this range that you can set the tax rate.
Right.
Two of the commissioners in Lubbock County said, no, we're not going to allow you to set the tax rate above the no new revenue rate. So we want a no tax increase, no kidding, no tax increase budget this year. The judge didn't like it. He said that all the elevators in the building are going to break down. We're not going to be able to fix them. But they still went in with that no new revenue rate. Of course, now that I think one commissioner's out and the other commissioner's still causing trouble, but for the judge. But what are your thoughts on setting the tax rate? Should we set it to the no new revenue rate with the idea that even though you're the no new revenue rate, any new property that comes on adds to the revenue. So it's not really a no new revenue rate. It's a rate that keeps existing properties at the same rate,
right?
Or same amount.
I think the biggest thing is, of course, if I get in, I'm gonna be the new kid on the block, and I think the biggest thing is to have an open line of communication.
With who?
With the commissioners, with the judge, with the constituents. I think that communication's key. I think at any time that you're working on policy, you're working on a road. Anything, road issue, data centers. You got to have good. You got to have transparency, and you got to have a good open line of communication.
So you're going to allow Judge Carter to raise the
No,
taxes?
that's not what I'm saying. But I think that you need to have a good open line of communication. I would say I'm not for raising taxes.
But no one ever is
I
until
know,
they get in the office.
I know, but that's why I say you're this budget, and somebody has done budgeting. Building custom homes, I've spent people's money my entire life, and I've done it effectively and I've done it efficiently.
By the way, I'm going to give people a story about Chad Decker. You used to have an office next door, and one time I went in there, and you were so frustrated. And I said, "What are you frustrated about?" You were arguing with McCoy's about the cost of a mailbox. And I said, "Why do you even care if it costs $24.99 versus $26.99?" And you said, "Because this house has to cost $154,000 or whatever it was, right? And this right here is taking money out of my pocket."
Sure.
You're arguing for a day over $2.
But $2 here, $10 here, $20 there, it adds up.
Right.
And, like I said, I've as a builder, I've spent people's money my entire adult life. And I'm pretty frugal by nature. And I don't want to spend money that doesn't need to be spent. And if I've been buying a mailbox for this, that's what I expect to pay for the next one, unless I get notified otherwise. So with this budget and how tight it is, you have to be frugal. And one thing I've always told people building is I will never shortcut quality. But if there's other options out there that won't sacrifice quality, I'm going to look for it. And, I would bring that same attitude into the commissioner's office. No one likes spending money. No one likes tax increases, especially what we're paying currently. And so that's one thing that I will fight for till the end is to keep our tax rate as low as possible, as long as we can balance budget and not have deficiencies in our roads or, anything that affects day-to-day operation of people's lives, going home, traveling.
Related to this, running for office, local office, your biggest voting blocks are municipal employees, school district employees, and county employees. You have 1,000. I'm rounding around, but it's 1,000 employees in the county, and they all expect their 5%, 10%, cost of the COLA increase every year. How do you view that? I didn't get a COLA.
I didn't get one either. In fact, there's been several times when I've been building homes and, maybe we had a lean year, interest rates went up. One thing we didn't talk about is state mandates that come down with no money. There's been times where I didn't take a paycheck, but I made sure my people were paid. I'll just tell you, looking at, and I'd have to get into this more, but I think that in most cases, in a lot of cases, these folks do need some pay increase. especially when I look at the sheriff's department and deputies. I think they're making like a deputy roughly makes $10,000 less than an SAPD officer. We have a 35% turnover at the jail. A lot of that has to do with salary. So I think that's one of the benefits.
But now, when you give the jailers a pay increase, then all the clerks in the county clerk's office say, "Where's my pay increase?"
No, I get that, and that's something that we'll definitely try to look at. But I mean, I think that they're all necessary. I think that pay increases are necessary just to keep up with cost of living, but that money has to come from somewhere, and that's one of the things that I see best. And I'm not saying that there's no negatives, because there are some potentially with the data center. That could bring in potentially a huge sum of money that could accommodate getting folks paid on a pay scale that's similar with cities and counties this size, doing some much needed infrastructure repairs, whether it's new roads, recoding, whatever. Maybe we've got some equipment that's outdated in the maintenance barn that needs to be replaced.
So you're going to spend all that?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we would need to put down a list of priorities and see what we need to get done. What's immediate? What's top priority, 2, 3, 4, however far we need to go down. But ultimately, that budget has to balance, and there's nothing I'd love to see more than to be able to have a ton of excess, lower the tax rate, and put some of this money back in people's pockets.
Yeah. Well, we have a truck that just parked behind my building. It's making a lot of noise. I hope y'all not picking up this rumble, but it's not our equipment. It's this truck that's out there. But Chad Decker, he's running for Precinct 2 County Commissioner. Election day is March 3rd.
March 3rd. Early voting is February 17th, so next Tuesday, February 17th to the 27th, and then March 3rd is Election Day. Yeah.
All right. Well, Chad, thanks for sitting
Yes,
down
sir,
and talking
Joe.
to me so long. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And I'm Joe Hyde with San Angelo Live. Back to the studio.
Into the news, San Angelo Independent School District trustees voted unanimously against adopting a policy that would have required campuses to set aside time each day for voluntary prayer and reading of religious texts under Senate Bill 11.
Board President Taylor Kingman said the district chose not to add new regulations to existing constitutional protections, expressing concern about unintended consequences. The proposed policy would have required parental and staff consent and restricted how and where prayer periods could take place.
What's your take on that?
I try to not get too political online. I'm a godly woman, and that's that.
No, I mean, if you're going to allow the Christians prayer time, you have to allow for Muslim prayer time and Satanist prayer time.
I will say, though, that this country was built on Christianity, and I think our youth could really use it in times like this.
They absolutely could.
But that's about how I feel on it.
Sticking with schools, Brady ISD announced it will stop using Live Touch for school photos due to rumors linking the company to Jeffrey Epstein, though the company is not named in the Epstein files. Concerns stem from Leanne Black, former CEO of Apollo Global Management, which acquired Shutterfly's Live Touch's parent company in 2019. And when we come back, we'll get into weather, but not before this message from Jay Chandler.
It's hard to believe how reckless some people can be and how hard they fight against real victims. You need a partner who consistently beats the giants and who will never, ever flinch.
Into weather, right now it's 86 degrees outside, and the low tonight drops down to about 48.
Tomorrow the high drops quite a bit to 79, and the low gets down to 48.
Then on Thursday it'll be sunny out with a high of 77, and the low will be 45.
You guys, pray for the Panhandle right now. I was just up there. I have been driving all day, actually. It's currently on fire. I'm lucky I left when I did. I would not be here right now.
We actually had a story today about wildfire.
No, the ranch that I frequent, one of the guys had sent me a video, and it's on fire, and it's calving season for these heifers. So just pray for the animals, pray for the people, pray for the Panhandle. Every year something happens like that, so just don't give up. And we'll be right back after this word from Condos, Diamonds, and Coins.
When it comes to unique pieces you can't find anywhere else, Condos, Diamonds, and Coins is your one-stop shop. With over 24 years in the diamond and coin industry, Condos, Diamonds, and Coins is West Texas's choice for diamonds, jewelry, coins, silver, and gold. Owner Bill Cano stands by his work and offers free consultations, including estate jewelry. Don't just trust anyone with your valuables. Come see the staff at Cano's at 1016 West Beauregard in San Angelo.
Thank you for watching the Live Daily News Show.
The only locally owned news show in the Concho Valley.
Follow us on Facebook, X, and other social media platforms.
And download the San Angelo Live mobile app.
For the Live team, I'm James Blee.